Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Decisive Squirrel Homestead after a very long hiatus. We have not been around posting videos very much, and that's because the weather was not kind to us this winter. Usually it stays pretty warm here and we can do a pretty good garden in the winter, but this year was just very weird. It was much warmer than usual for the most part, but then we still had that really big cold snap where we got down to like 15 degrees. Unfortunately, we went from about 70 to 15 in 1 week, so none of the plants adjusted to that and did not fare well. So the only thing we really got out of the garden this winter was greens, which was great, but not what we planned on. And then as we've gotten into spring here, the weather's been very back and forth. 70 degrees, 30 degrees, 70 degrees, 30 degrees. So that has not been great for gardening either. But now we are at the end of February. It's February 26th today, and the weather is warming up, should be for good. Our last frost date is February 28th, so we shouldn't have any more freezes. So we have gotten started on the spring garden now, and we'll have more videos coming up as we do that. We've been a little busier than usual, so I don't know how regular the videos are going to be, but those of you who are interested in following along in the garden, we will be updating as things go along. So we did get started on a lot of things this past weekend, and we've been working on getting everything going as this week has gone on. So last weekend we started planting potatoes, and we haven't really grown potatoes here on this property. We did try potato towers the first year. That was a big failure because we were not doing things right. We know that now. In the past, we've just grown potatoes in the ground, and so we decided to go back to that this year. So our patch in our separate yard, not our main garden, where we have grown corn and beans in the past, we decided we were going to try potatoes there. And we were a little bit worried about the soil quality here, just because we haven't really done a lot to build up the quality. But as we got in there and we started loosening up the soil, we don't have a broad fork, but we used a shovel to basically do the same thing a broad fork does. So we were just loosening up the soil, not turning it over, not tilling it. And it turned out that things were looking a lot better under there than we expected. So hopefully the potatoes go well. So we pulled up the weed barrier where we're going to plant potatoes and folded that over. So now there's 2 layers of weed barrier in between the rows. And then we put a new layer down where the potatoes are going to go, just because this is a patch of ground that has a lot of grass, and the grass is still trying to come up and would need way too much weeding if we didn't have any weed barrier down. So we cut big holes, buried those potatoes pretty deep, left some of the soil off to the side so we can keep adding that as needed, and got those potatoes in the ground. Hopefully they'll do okay there. We'll see how that goes. Again, that's not the best soil on the property. It's not the main part of our garden, but we're hoping to continue building that up, and hopefully it will become another garden over here. We also planted green peas. We had actually gotten green peas in the ground a few weeks ago, but then we had several cold snaps, and some of them sprouted, some of them didn't. The ones that sprouted were looking okay, but they were just kind of slow to get started. So we went ahead and put more peas in the ground wherever they hadn't sprouted already. And we put in our cattle panel arches on that row for the peas to climb, and so they would be there later in the season for other things to climb. The cattle panel arches have been a really good investment. It was a lot of work the first time we put them in, but now that we've got the hang of it and we know how it goes, it's pretty quick and easy. All we did on these cattle panels was we used bolt cutters the first year to cut off the last row of wire so that there are just points sticking out at the bottom, and those can stick straight into the ground. And then we do get tornadoes and things like that here, so just to be on the safe side, we stake those down with the wire that we had cut off the bottom. We just folded those into a U shape, and we hammer those in the ground over the bottom of the cattle panel arch so that they really don't go anywhere no matter how bad the weather gets. So we got those all set up for the peas. We still have a row of cattle panel arches set up a few rows over, and that's where we're going to plant our tomatoes this year. We also planted more beets. We're slightly late on that, I think, but I think it'll be okay. We have figured out that beets really don't do well in the ground for us. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I don't know if it's a watering issue or a soil issue, But whenever we plant beets in the main garden, we only get 3 or 4 beets. They just really don't do well. But we learned last year that we really like beet greens, even if we don't get the beets. And so we decided that we needed to figure out a way to make beets work for us. So we tried them in our wicking beds, and they did great there in the winter. That was some of the greens that we got over the winter. So we're doing that again for the early spring. So we have 2 wicking beds of beets going right now. We have one we started a while back, and then we have another one that we started just this last weekend. And so far that's going really well. We do have some kind of feral cats that hang around here. They're not very feral anymore. They like us, but we like to have them on the property because they take care of any rats and snakes and things like that that are too close to the house. So they've been very useful and also friendly, fun pets. Unfortunately, the younger one likes to use these wicking beds as a litter box, and so we had to put a stop to that. And we figured out the best way to do that was to just take one more of our cattle panels and just set it over the top. So that keeps him from getting in there, but the plants can still grow up just fine. So that is what we've done to deal with that issue. Our asparagus is doing really well. We need to cut off the big fronds that have overgrown at this point, and it's ready to harvest, and it puts out enough asparagus that we can make a meal out of it. So that's a good thing. We have started lettuce. That's primarily for our guinea pigs, not for us actually. We eat some of it, but most of it ends up going to the guinea pigs. And I think that's about it. We started some carrots, but with the way the weather's gone, I'm not expecting a lot out of them, but we'll see what happens with that. And as the spring goes on, we will get into more spring vegetables. We'll get our tomatoes in, and then we'll get into green beans and okra and all of that good stuff that does well in our heat that we have down here. So that is how our spring is going. I would say I hope the weather's been kinder to some of you, but I know the weather has not been very kind to many people in the country this year. So we keep on keeping on. We learn as we go, and we make adjustments. We have definitely learned not to strictly follow the rules and the calendars and all of that sort of thing. We take into our account our experience and how things have done with different weather patterns, and we go ahead and adjust because the weather's going to do what the weather's going to do. So we got to do what we can to work with it. I hope your gardens are going well and you are having a good start to your season, and we will see y'all soon. Bye.